All right, here we go. Answers for 3.2C, the factoring ones. Number 23. You multiply 2 times negative 3 to get negative 6. You figure out that 1 and negative 6 work to make negative 5. So it's 2 sine of x plus 1, 2 sine of x minus 6. Divide the first one by 1, divide the first one by 2. Second one by 2. So it's 2 sine of x plus 1, sine of x minus 3. Jill, you paying attention to this? Okay, good. Number 24, it's just normal factoring. 2 sets of parentheses, cosine, cosine, plus, minus, 2, 3. So it's cosine of x plus 2, cosine of x minus 3. 26, you multiply 2 and 3, get negative 6, and the negative 2 and 3 work to make positive 1 cotangent of a. So it's 2 cotangent of a minus 2 and 2 cotangent of a plus 3. Divide the first one by 2, divide the second one by 1. And you get cotangent of a minus 1, 2 cotangent of a plus 3. So far, so good? Okay. Number 4 is a perfect square trinomial. So you take the square root of the first, sine of the middle, square root of the last. 20 squared. Square root of the first, sine of the middle, square root of the last. 28. Same thing. Square root of the first, sine of the middle, square root of the last. Number 30, here's where it got tricky. Sine to the fourth of y minus cosine to the fourth of x. I'm sure all of you got this, but some of you maybe didn't get this. Okay? This is differences of squares again. So you have to break this down again. Sum of squares doesn't factor because it gives you imaginary roots if you tried to solve it. This does not factor. This does. Into sine of y plus cosine of x, sine of y minus cosine of x, and this stays the same, so it has to be written with that one as well. Are we good? We got that. Number 31, you have to factor out a cosine out of everything because there's a cosine in everything to get sine squared plus sine b minus 2. And so it factors into cosine of b times sine of b plus 2 times sine of b minus 1. Number 32, there's a tangent in everything, so we take out a tangent, and we factor it into tangent of x times cosine of x minus 3 times cosine of x plus 1. $33. Uh-oh. I don't know what happened to 33. So now I got 34 here. Cosine squared of x minus 1 quantity squared. Cosine squared of x minus 1 quantity squared is cosine squared of x minus 1 times cosine squared of x minus 1. The first one factors into this. The second one factors into this. And since there are 2 that match this, they go to here. And since there are 2 that match this, they go to here. So that's what 34 should be. What was 33 then? 33?
It's wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong. That's not what I have for you.
33 was 4 secant to the fourth of x minus 1, right?
No.
Minus 4 secant squared of x minus 1. So it's 2 plus 1 minus 4. All right, now we got it. So it is 2 secant squared of x minus 1. Quantity squared. That's what 33 would be. Yeah. I trusted you, but you didn't even trust yourself. Okay, on 35 and 36, we start out with 4 terms. So put the parentheses around the first 2, leave the plus sign here, put the parentheses around the last 2. Factor out a cosine of x out of the first 2 to get sine of x minus 1. Factor out a 1 out of this one to get sine of x plus 1. So the sine of x plus 1s go in their own set of parentheses. You do not square it. Do not square it. Okay? And then what is in front of each goes in its own set of parentheses. Okay? On 36, what I do is when there's a minus sign here, I go plus a negative, then put two sets of parentheses around here with a plus sign in between. You factor out a sine x out of the first one, you get 2 sine of x plus 1. Factor out a negative cosine of x out of this one, you get 2 sine of x plus 1. So it's sine of x minus cosine of x times 2 sine of x plus 1. All right, that's the answers to the first assignment, factoring one. Now the answers to 3.2D. 37. See how they're lined up in columns? You should line them up in columns. So sine of x times cosine of x over sine of x equals cosine of x. The signs cancel to be cosine of x equals cosine of x. Okay? The second one, cosine squared of x times tangent squared of x equals sine squared of x. So tangent squared is sine squared over cosine squared. The cosines cancel to get sine squared equals sine squared. See how I write the sine squared in every step on this side. Okay? And then this one, secant of x is 1 over cosine of x. So one of these cosines of x cancels with one of these cosines of x. So I get 1 minus cosine squared, which is sine squared. That should be what 39 looks like. 40. Cosecant of x is 1 over sine x, and it cancels with one of these sines of x, so I get 1 minus sine squared, which is cosine squared. 41. Secant squared is 1 over cosine squared, so then sine squared over cosine squared is sine squared over cosine squared, which is tangent squared. 1 plus tangent squared is secant squared. 42. Same thing, except for with cosecants and cosines. So cosecant squared is 1 over sine squared. Cosine squared over sine squared is cotangent squared, which is cosecant squared. We good on that? Okay. So let's just go through a few examples, and then I'll assign the next one out for you. So we must be on 3.2E now. Okay. So, let's say we have cosine of x over secant of x plus sine of x over cosecant of x equals 1. Okay? How would I solve this? What would be my first step of solving this? Well, when all else fails, where do we start? Change your secant into cosine. So I get cosine of x over 1 over cosine of x. And your cosecant into sine of x. All right, so now we have what's called a complex fraction. What do we do when we have complex fractions? Multiply by the denominator of the denominator. So then your denominators are going to cancel. Oh, sine of x here. So your denominators will cancel out. So you get cosine squared of x plus sine squared of x equals 1. What's cosine squared plus sine squared? 1. So you get 1 equals 1. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? All right, let's do another one. Cotangent cubed of x times secant of x minus cosecant cubed of x times sine of x equals -1. Oh my, what do we do? Do our basic identities. So, cotangent cubed is what? Cosine cubed of x over sine cubed of x. What's secant? Cosine of x minus, ooh, I screwed this one up bad. Oh, I screwed this one up bad. I'm so bad. It is not equal to -1. This is just a bad problem. Bad problem. What? I'm sorry. All right, let's do this one instead. It's similar. What do we change cotangent into? Cosine of x over sine of x. What do we change secant into? Now what can I do? Cancel sine to cosine of x. What else? Cancel a cosine to get cosine of x. So 1 cosine of x plus 1 cosine of x is 2 cosine of x. You guys kind of got this, right? Let's just move on to the assignment. Page 172, 43 through 48 all. In about 20 minutes, I'll go over the second assignment. But this should not take too long. It's not super difficult. So there you go. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you did 43? Oh, so then it's 44 through 48 all. 44 through 48 all. Yeah, yep, it is. Okay, whatever.